Okay, so yeah, we're live, so let's do it.
All right, so it's a pleasure to be here. By the way, my name is Doug, aka Big T, and I'm here with Paperboy Prince, congressional candidate and great person from New York District 7. Local legend. There's actually a profile calling Paperboy a local legend, so you should check that out. But glad to be with you here on this podcast. It's truly an honor. So I just was going to ask Paperboy some questions so that Paperboy can say to the public why he's running for president, why Paperboy is doing this, and so I just want to get started as vaguely as possible and as go into as much detail or as little detail as possible. Why are you running for Congress? Like, this is obviously a big step. So why are you doing this?
Well, first off, I want to start this by saying that I love you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all the people in the community, and I appreciate this opportunity, and and I believe so much in the people. So that's just how I like to start off. I always like to start off with, even when the question's about me, I like to start off with, bringing it back to the people and how important they are, just because they're really on my mind. Like, this isn't a joke. The people are really on my mind. But why I'm running for Congress is, you know, there's so many reasons, and this is why this question is always so much fun for me, because there's so many reasons I'm running for Congress and my eyes light up. But first, it's this: we need bigger ideas. We need bigger ideas. We need fresh ideas. We need people that are excited about the possibilities of this community. We need people that are looking into the future. A lot of our current representation, they're focused on ways of the past. They're focused on ideas of the past and ideals of the past. And because they've been removed from the community so long, they don't know exactly what the community needs and what the leaders of the community in the future will lead, because the decisions that our representation make today, we might not feel them till 5-10 years down the line. So that means our representation has to be thinking 10 years down the line with every decision that they make. Our average congressperson doesn't know how to use a cell phone or a laptop, let alone regulate on internet security and artificial intelligence and all these things that are going to really affect our lives in the years to come. So that's one of the main reasons I wanted to run. Being someone that's in the community, being someone that is a web developer, being someone that is an artist, being someone that is an entrepreneur. A lot of people that I talk to in this community aren't a lot of people that I talk to in this community, they aren't working jobs. They're working as an independent contractor. And so there's this whole new thing of now companies don't want to hire people because they have to help provide healthcare. They have to do all these different things. So, and I represent these people as well. I've also worked for companies and had so so my thing is, I'm of the people. I'm from the people. As a street performer, I've had the opportunity to be literally in the streets day after day, talking with people, hearing about their issues, hearing about their families, talking with homeless individuals and talking with bankers, getting a chance to literally meet everyone where they are and help to bring people together. That's one of my main skills as an artist, as a community organizer, has been bringing people together. And that's one of the things that I feel like we need in government right now. Too much of the time it's Democrat versus Republican. It's Republican versus Democrat. And it's just a back and forth about Republican versus Democrat, is not actually about what can we do to work together to make life better for the people. And that's something that I want to come in and be a strong force for that. And a person that is, looking out for the community and coming up with fresh ideas that can help the community. When I first saw the idea of universal basic income making its way to the mainstream as a platform idea, especially under Andrew Yang as a president for candidate, that got me excited. That got me motivated. And I knew how much that could really transform the lives of a lot of people in our community. Whether they're somebody who's a single mom, whether there's somebody who's a student, whether there's somebody who is a senior. All these people can benefit from universal basic income. And it's a way that we can try something new and give back to the citizens, because a lot of people feel like one of the reasons they're fed up with politicians and they're fed up with government is because every time the government or a politician talks to them, it's taking something, being taken away from them. It's rarely something being given to them. And this isn't a handout. This is something that the people deserve, that they work for, that they pay for. Right now our tax dollars are we pay taxes for things, and then these government agencies, these government officials decide what to do with the money. We don't even get to decide what to do with our money. So the brilliance of universal basic income is it's the most kind of democratic policy you can have, because it puts $1,000 in your hand and says, hey, I'm with the government, but I'm not going to tell you what to do with this $1,000. I'm going to let you do what you want. Hold on, let me stop my phone.
Go back to that.
So the phone is ringing. Had to get that. But yeah, a big part of it is universal basic income is one of the most democratic policies that has ever been proposed, because instead of government agency telling you, okay, we're going to give you this, or we're going to give you that, or we're going to do this to the people or that to the people, it says, hey, look, you're smart, you know what to do. We're going to give you $1,000 a month, and you do whatever you want with it, because whatever you decide is actually what we need to be done with the money. We need you to make decisions to actually help this economy, to help the small businesses around you, to help the people around you. This is a revolutionary policy, and Paperboy Prince is a revolutionary artist and now politician. So that's why I'm focused on this, and that's why I'm running.
Yeah. All right. Awesome.
And I want to talk about that question more. So the more of these we'll do, I'll talk more about that, because every day I'm seeing more reasons that I'm running, and I'm realizing more things about it, and even how to express that. So people, get where I'm coming from. And also another reason why I'm running, I want to inspire others. I felt like there was a lot of times I didn't vote, especially in primaries, which is what I need people to vote for me in the primary. I didn't vote because I felt like it wasn't for me. I felt like my vote wouldn't count. And it wasn't until I actually did the math and looked at the numbers and saw that in the election, a lot of these elections come down to 50 votes. In the primaries, a lot of these elections come down to 100 votes, 1,000 votes. So that means if I get 30 of my homies together to vote, and each one of them gets one person with them to vote, we've just swung the election. We've just swung the election by 60 votes, 70 votes. That's very powerful. And, when you have candidates that are really fighting for what you believe in, and you're using these candidates as tools, and you're putting these candidates in places to succeed, that's really where change can happen. And I've realized that I know so many people, we'll be 200 deep at a rap show, 300 deep at, an art event, but not showing up to vote because we don't feel like the politicians are representing us. So that's why I want to be a politician that's moving towards representing the people and letting people know, hey, you can be yourself and still run and make a difference. So, this is why I'm running, and this is why I'm excited, and people are excited about this campaign. Yeah.
Awesome. So as you probably know, I'm pretty involved with the Yang Gang, and I've done some volunteer work with the Yang Gang. So I want you to tell us a little bit more about how you learned about Andrew Yang in the first place. How obviously you were inspired by his idea for universal basic income for $1,000 a month for every American. I just kind of want to know a little bit more about your connections with Andrew Yang. I know you met him personally once. If you'd like to speak about that, that'd be great. And how do you plan on maintaining and expanding this connection between your campaign and the Andrew Yang campaign for president?
Well, shout out to Andrew Yang, doing it for Yang, and I put that on gang. Hey. I'm a big Yang fan and supporter for more reasons than one. But how I first found out about Andrew Yang was, online. I was online, and this was almost a year ago now. It was sometime in February of 2019. I was online, and I got to see this article, and it was just kind of it looked like a spam article. But, oh, this person wants to give everyone $1,000 a month. And it literally looked like a spam article. But I was like, let me check that out just to see what that is, because I've heard about universal basic income way before Andrew Yang. During my studies of Martin Luther King, I knew he talked about a guaranteed income, and I was always curious about that. And I always brought that up to people, and they called me a conspiracy theorist just because I talked about, hey, Martin Luther King got killed right after he started talking about giving white people and black people money. But everybody called me a conspiracy theorist about that.
Interesting.
But that's when I first heard about guaranteed income. Now, so when I saw this article about a guy running for president saying $1,000 a month, I'm like, is he talking that Martin Luther King talk? And then when I actually got to look into him and see that he was a business person and that he had, did research on this and actually had a reasonable, reason for it as far as the looming, oncoming automation that's really kind of taken over the country in a lot of places, that's when I knew he was the real deal. So, but I knew if I'm just hearing about him, that a lot of people that I know care about politics and that are posting about Trump every day, they might not have heard about him, So I did a song. I had been doing music for political candidates or just music about politics just as like a fun thing. Just like whenever I had the time, I'd do, I have a song called like, for example, Melania Trump did a speech, and it was like kind of copied of a Michelle Obama speech. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did a song called Melania Trump speech. That was like, the song is actually just like a super repetitive song, but it's kind of like, because she repeated this.
Funny.
It was just like a fun thing. But I have a song called Sarah Palin, which was just like, it's about pizza, but I just call it Sarah Palin. I had
about pizza.
Right. I had the song called Hillary Clinton. So, and it was just, and again, all of these songs weren't supporting Melania Trump or supporting Hillary Clinton or some.
No, yeah,
it was just about.
It's the
It's just about it's just meme music, meme trap. Political memes through music. And then when Andrew Yang came out, and I went to his website and actually saw that they are pro memes. That I was like, okay, let me make some music about this campaign. And at that point, I had looked it up. And I think I only had saw one song that was like a Yang song that was out on YouTube. So I was like, okay, let me make one. And it'd be dope if you hear it. I put out the song Yang Gang. And everybody was like, who is this guy you're talking about? Like, did you just make a friend or something? Is this your friend? And I'm like, no, like this guy running for president, he's supporting universal basic income. They were like, what's the basic income? And so I was like, they're not getting it. So I made another song. And then people were like, oh, I like this. Wait, this is about the same guy, Yang? Who is this Yang guy? And then Yang posted the first song on his Twitter, and then he posted the next one on his Twitter, and then he did me a shout out on his live on Instagram, and people were excited, and so I'm like, okay, so let me do another one. And then I started connecting with people in the Yang Gang in Phoenix, and people in the Yang Gang in Florida, and people with the Yang Gang in Colorado, and people in the Yang Gang in Vermont, and people in the Yang Gang in New York. And then I actually got a chance to meet Andrew Yang after dropping about 4 or 5 songs at his rally in Washington Square Park in New York. And we did something that has never before been done for any political candidate. Before his rally, what we did is we said, hey, we're going to chant Yang Gang for 1,000 minutes leading up to the rally. So before the Andrew Yang rally started, we were actually chanting, and this was in May, before the people were even like all in the Yang Gang and all this. This was back in May.
Yeah, I must have missed that.
I did a thing where we basically chanted Yang Gang for 1,000 minutes. So which I think 1,000 minutes.
Is that? It's a long time.
It's like, I want to say it's like 16 hours or 14 hours. I off the top of my head, I forget the math, but it's a while. You just got to do 60, 1,000 divided by 60 or whatever, and that's the answer. But so we chanted 1,000 minutes, and the idea behind that was just to raise awareness about Andrew Yang.
At least do like 1,000 seconds or something, make it a little easier.
Right. Well, we thought minutes would be cool, and it was like, hey, to raise awareness about Andrew Yang. I have to do something out of the box because people aren't talking about him. Because this was May, people were not talking about Yang in May. And the people that were already knew, so I didn't want to preach to the choir. I wanted to do something to get it out there. In tandem with the songs, I was going to play my songs and all that. So it went really well. It ended up raining that day, though. It was raining and cold, so it was super hard. And ended up meeting Yang and his team, and it was awesome. They showed a lot of love. And so fast forward about a month after that, a group was throwing a fundraiser for Yang, where they were raising, I want to say like $60,000 or $70,000 for him in that night. and had a bunch of people. I think it was like $1,000 to attend this event, and they asked me to come as a special guest, as a rapper and special guest. And I was there and kind of just, shook hands, took some pictures, and got to meet Yang again, talk to him, and he shouted me out during his speech, which was awesome. So, and that was big for me because as a citizen, number one, but two, just as a young person, getting able to be close to a political campaign and seeing how they operate, and also seeing how, they're using new media and kind of out of the box strategies to get buzz about their campaign, that was inspiring to me. And those are the kind of the things that I picked up close to the campaign. So, I'm a supporter and I'm excited about what they're doing. And I'm really more so about, and the thing that really drew me into Yang was that, I saw an interview where he kind of talked about, even if he doesn't win, that's not the biggest deal. He's kind of started saying that less now because he's become a serious contender.
I've seen a lot of values saying
Right.
he's going to win. So.
Right. So, but he was saying even if he doesn't win, he wants these ideas out there.
Yeah.
That to me, I was like, okay, you sold me. Now I want you to win. Because it's like he's like, it's bigger than me. It's the ideas. It's about the community, and that's really how I feel as a candidate. It's so much bigger than me. It's about the ideas. It's about the community. Just being able to already now get in front of my Congress people and get in front of my representatives and share the ideas that people around me are passionate about, people in the community are caring about. That matters a lot. So. So that's what we're going to continue to do. And as far as working with the Yang campaign, they reached out before, I want to say it was either the second debate, maybe, for me to be a part of their influencer network, and they sent me a hat and some other things. And they're basically like, hey, make videos or take a picture and telling you, why you support Yang, or do a video. And so I did a bunch of songs. After that, I did some more songs, and I did a video before the debate. And, I was just happy to be included and super happy to let people know. And now what's crazy is so many people come up to me and they're like, yo, the only reason I support Andrew Yang is because you put me onto him. Like, I've had no less than like 50 people come to me. And every day it's a new person tagging me like, yo, I'm an Andrew Yang supporter because of you, and like da-da-da. And it's like, these are people who normally... The big deal for me isn't even that they're Yang supporters, honestly. The big deal for me is that these are people who normally aren't even invested in electoral politics until it's a general election. Normally, they don't care until it's Hillary and Trump. Now, earlier on, before the Iowa caucuses, they're already interested in, okay, who's going to win, this and that. You know what I'm saying? So that to me was like, wow, if we have that type of effect through music and through art and through shows, what type of effect can we have on local politics as a congressperson, and federal politics, national politics as a congressperson, if I put that same energy into informing people about what's going on in politics on the local level? So that's kind of why I started redirecting that energy into the Paperboy campaign and, really making it something that can change the world, change the community, and get people excited about local politics, something that a lot of them weren't even thinking about.
Awesome. So just to elaborate a little bit more on that, quickly here, what do you think, what are some examples of ways that you would like to get people involved on your campaign specifically? What are some of these creative strategies that you have been using or want to use in the future?
So as far as creative strategies, we're doing something called the Run With Me campaign, where I want to inspire 500 people from our community to run for a county committee. So the county committee is basically a board inside of the community that runs the Democratic Party, that has leaders from each block that help to run the Democratic Party, which has a lot of power here in Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan. They have the power to appoint judges, appoint different representatives if they in a special election. They help to run the elections, as well as approve candidates. Yes, get volunteers, and they pay the people who do the elections as well. So all of that. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of things going on that the community isn't involved in because they don't even know these things exist. So that's one thing, the Run With Me campaign, where we're going to get 500 people to run for office, be in county committee, and then inspire them to run for other offices as well. Outside of that, though, it's making art. You know, I want to have people doing art campaigns for our congressional run, which that means, you know, doing things, whatever it is you do, doing that to let people know about this election that's coming up. Because one of the main way that they disenfranchise voters is making sure that you don't even know which day the election is. Like if I ask somebody what's the day of the primary election for your congressional representative, 99.9% of them don't know. Most don't know. Even the people that I meet now at all these political meetings, they don't know because it's designed that way. You're not supposed to know. It's June 23rd for our election, but a lot of people don't know. So making art so that people are aware of these things. That's one of the things that we'll be doing creatively. Another big thing is just being a real person and having fun. So you know, when you're just being a real person, a regular person, when I'm being myself, when I'm wearing the outfits that I like to wear, when I'm, you know, dancing how I like to dance, and just being a fun person, people connect to that, and that makes them more comfortable being themselves, and they don't feel like they have to put on a front, but they can actually share what they're going through. You know, since I've been running, I feel like more people have reached out to me about things that they're dealing with in their community and problems that they have because they feel comfortable coming to me and talking, and they don't feel like they have to put on a separate face for that. So another thing that we're doing is, you know, we've been registering voters for months now at our events. So the paperboyprince.com festival is my show that's not affiliated with my campaign, but it is just my festival as an artist. And during that, we've been registering voters. We've been telling people about Andrew Yang and other candidates they can get excited about. We've been, you know, just getting them excited about the elections. We've been bringing people together because the main thing is bringing the community together. You know, all of this red tape stuff, it's just that. It's red tape. But what I'm about is people. So finding ways to be creative to bring people together so that they have better lives. You know, that's it. That's the goal. So all of the other stuff is just, you know, is just fluff to get around the goal. But the goal is to bring people together for them to have better lives and better situations. Because when we come together, that's how we have more power going for these issues that we want.
Awesome. So yeah, that all sounds great. I do want to touch a little bit more on the issues, obviously, because you know issues are important. I think that's what voters are going to care about in your district as well as every district. You've already spoken about UBI. I believe that's probably like your first priority. Like that would be your flagship policy. Is that correct?
Yes. Universal basic income would be a flagship policy for our campaign.
So can I ask if you have any other flagship policies, potentially healthcare or anything else?
Yeah. So policies for our campaign that we're really focused on is universal basic income, because we feel like that'll have some of the most immediate effects and change, and it's something that can really help to lift people out of poverty. And you know, our government has practice sending mass amount of checks out to Americans. It does it with Social Security. It does it with different Medicare benefits, and it's
a more efficient way.
So it's just a thing that we've already been doing, that we have practice in doing. So we feel confident, you know, even with tax returns and things like that. We already are mass sending out checks to people. So this is something that we have the capacity and practice doing. Another flagship policy is healthcare for all. You know, I believe that everyone deserves healthcare and dental care as well. We like to take it a step further and say dental care. Well, mental health care is healthcare as well. So definitely mental health care, and you know, raising awareness for that in all communities. So yes, dental care, mental health care, and just general health care for everyone. We believe there's a lot of ways that, you know, we can creatively get this done and also still do a great job of compensating our healthcare professionals and those in that industry, you know, because we still want to take care of the people that are the healthcare providers, and also recruit more people to go into these fields, because, you know, this is still one of the most growing fields is the healthcare industry. So definitely want to make sure there's a way to have healthcare for everyone, because, you know, if you're sick and you have something I have a disease, but let's not say you're sick. If someone is sick, and
I can be sick.
all right, fine.
I'm
You want
on.
to be sick? You're sick. If you're sick, you have a disease, and then I'm like, well, I got health care, so I don't worry about him sick. But you cough, and you cough on me, and now I'm sick. And if you could have gone to the doctor, and I get this isn't how it always works, but if you had been able to go to the doctor, if you had health care, maybe you would have never been in that situation, and then I wouldn't have got sick. So we're only as healthy as our least healthy citizen. So it's finding ways to, bring our health up. Another thing that I'm focused on is housing for all. That's everyone, a big buzzword in the community right now is gentrification because it's happening and it's going on. And the rent prices, I mean, hey, I live in New York. The prices for rent are astronomical and it's not even fun to think about. Like it's almost like impossible to make rent or to move here from a lot of people's situations. And if you do, so much of your income is going to rent that, you're just working to live instead of, actually living for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is what this country was founded on. So housing for all. And then something that's special and near and dear to my heart, and I don't hear a lot of politicians talking about, is spreading love. And that's a big part of me in this campaign. You ask somebody why they don't like Donald Trump, what's the issues that they have with Donald Trump. One of the first things you'll say is like, I don't know. I just don't like him. They just don't like how he is. They don't like what he said. They don't like some of the things he said about women, some of the things he said about immigrants, some of the things that he said about other politicians. Because he's spreading this type of energy that they feel they kind of associate with hate, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, myself, seeing how strong that energy is and how that's consumed some people is why I double down and want to focus on spreading love. Because if you're so focused on this guy and you said he's spreading hate, then why aren't you supporting any politicians who are spreading love, that are doing the opposite, that are actually going out there and being positive, that are inspiring people, that are inspiring people for change, and that are actually, you feel uplifted when you hear them speak. So that's one of the reasons that I want to run, spreading love again in Congress and in the government, but also spreading love in the community. That means creating more new, innovative community centers, whether they be new buildings or I'm proposing some private something there. They feel like there's something missing, there's something more. We're a country, so we have to come together. And we have to spread love. We can't wait, because I remember after September 11th, everybody wanted to come together. Everybody wanted to hug. Everybody wanted to be positive. We need to have that same type of energy, that tight knitness all the time, so that we can already be together and fend off these types of attacks. Absolutely. And these type of terrorist attacks of hate with love before they even come.
Well, you make some very good points. I was going to ask you about how you're going to kind of translate spreading love into policy. I think you made a good start with when you're talking about the community centers. If there's anything more you'd like to elaborate on that, feel free to do so.
Well, love in the policy is, again, it's just, if you're thinking through love, then you'll make a decision based in love. And that's what, because right now, a lot of people are making decisions based in money, which is like, if you're a government official, I can see if you're a banker, but you're a government official. So make decisions based in love, compassion for people. Because if you're not looking out for these seniors, then who is? If you're not looking out for these people in these low income communities who have water that isn't drinkable, then who is? We have to make decisions based on love, because when they make decisions based on money, it's easy for them to turn a blind eye to the senior because they don't got the money to help me out get reelected. It's easy for them to turn a blind eye or the person in public housing because they don't have the money to get me reelected. But when it's about love, then I gotta help them out. So for me, it's just that general consensus and that general energy. But as far as what were we talking about? As far as the community centers, yes, that's an actual direct policy that is love-based and rooted in that and manifested through that.
Awesome. So I do want to ask, because I'm sure this is something, there might be some people out there might be somewhat skeptical, that might be thinking, oh, this all sounds great, or he seems like a good guy, I like Paperboy, I like what Paperboy has to say, but they might be thinking, oh, well, like, you don't have the experience to be, taking the jump from being someone that is not is not a politician, has not had experience in, it's not had, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you have not had past political experience. Is that correct?
As an elected official, no, but I do have political experience as far as working with and for elected officials, as far as working through activism as a community organizer and as an activist and you know things of this nature, as well as now as an artist, through protest art, really being at the forefront of what's going on and influencing, how people feel about these issues. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I want to know what you'd say to your critics who think that who admire your passion, who might like some of your policies and like to hear what you have to say, but think, oh, I think Paperboy should wait. He should maybe run for something in the lower office, or he should wait before he moves up the ladder into Congress. What would you say to that person? Why is it important that why is it now or never that you should be running for Congress?
That's a great question, and I feel like I already answered that when you asked about why I'm running for Congress. But as far as someone who says, feel like a lack of experience, listen, my experience is being a citizen. My experience for this office is actually coming from this community and actually spending my time in this community, talking to the people here in a real way. Not talking to the richest donor who has the most money, who's been able to talk to me, but actually being here and living and dealing with some of the issues that affect people in this community. When you're actually affected by it, it's harder for you to not want to solve this issue. If my roof is actually leaking, I want my roof to stop leaking a lot more than maybe the landlord who, it's his building, but he lives in Miami somewhere, so he can afford for the roof to be leaking. He can let it go an extra day. I can't wait. That's how I feel about this community. I'm living with the issues that are facing this community, so to me, it's urgent. I can't wait. I don't see the passion in our elected officials that I have. I don't see them waving the beacon, waving the flag for these issues and really being loud and using their voice for these issues in 2020 the way that they could to most rally and be more effective. I really don't see it. The voter turnout in my district in primaries is 6%. 6%. It's abysmal. It's so low. It shows me that they have lured the people to sleep so that they don't even want to come out and participate in the elections. They don't even want to come out and vote for them because they're so uninspired, and they don't even know the times because the people aren't being a loud enough beacon to say, hey, this is an important issue. Hey, this is what I'm fighting for. Hey, this is what we need to do right now. That's what I'm going to be there doing. I'm going to be unavoidable. Okay, I'm going to be an annoyance to the opposition because I will constantly be fighting for and battling for the issues that matter most to us, and letting people know, not being quiet about it, using unconventional means to reach people. If people are disaffected, that's not their fault. That's our fault. It's our fault that they're not interested. Yeah, some of the stuff that is going on is boring, but it affects our lives. So we need to find ways to reach these people. The people at the top aren't doing that. They talk about it, but they're not doing that. They say that they're for these issues, but they're not about it. I see right through it. They say they're for helping with housing, but they just say low-income housing and public housing, and then they think that to make you think that they're working for it, but they're not working for it. They just say the words. They say, "Oh yeah, I'd co-sponsor a bill that does that," but they don't do anything about it. They're not actually working and fighting for it. They're working and fighting for it in the most establishment, basic, I'm not trying type of way. For the amount of power that they have, they could be doing so much more and going so much further. And they probably don't even realize it because they've been in office so long that they literally have lost touch of what it's like to be, a normal citizen, and actually wishing that you could have your ideas be talked about on the national stage and fought for on the national stage. And people who are willing to literally put their life on the line, literally put their reputation on the line, literally to put their career on the line for their community. Because I feel like our current representation, if it came between their life and the community, they're choosing their life, which I can't argue with that. If it comes between their career and the community, they're choosing their career, which, hey, I can't argue with that. But for me, that's not what I'm doing. For me, I'm willing to risk it all because this service is so important to me that I have to get the word out. I have to be the loudest person in the room for the community if our issues aren't being spoken about. So that's why it's super urgent right now for Paperboy to run and to wake other people up who feel just like I do, and they need to get out there. They need to be running for office. They need to be inspiring others. They need to be knocking on doors. They need to be researching policies. They need to be raising money. They need to be inspiring the kids, because right here, right now, more than ever, it's our time.
It's our time. Yeah, absolutely, man. It's our time. So, yeah, I guess just to go off that a little bit more. So obviously, when you get into Congress, when you get into Congress, things aren't going to be easy. It's gonna take some challenges to really, fight for these issues, especially if I mean, knock on wood, Andrew Yang will be the president, but hopefully that'll happen. There's a decent chance that won't be the case. So what would you do if, when you get into Washington, you see that things are kind of going on as usual? Whether Trump is the president still, or it's someone else that you think might, not be, might think be better than Trump, but still be kind of very establishment friendly. It doesn't really matter specifically, but essentially, how will you fight for these policies, for UBI, for Medicare for all this stuff? How will you fight for this? If you see that the people in DC, whether it's the Republicans or the establishment Democrats or whoever it is, aren't on board with you, how will you convince them that they need to help you pass these policies? Because you can't do it alone. So how are you going to go out there and convince them that you're going to get this done and this is the right thing to do?
Well, one of the ways I'll be able to do that is, my greatest skill is bringing people together. And actually working with other people, bringing people together. I don't hate anyone. I love everyone, no matter who they support for president, no matter what their religious beliefs are, no matter what their background is. I love everyone. And, I'm not here to judge anyone, because I've realized that your life has led you to a place that has you making these decisions. So it's not my job to judge you. But what I can do is actually use that power that I have and that we all have to come together to help rally support for these issues in these individual representatives' communities. So if it's a representative from, say, Virginia, that I need their support backing something like universal basic income, I'd be able to go to their community or work with other leaders in their community, whether it be artists that are popular, whether it be religious leaders and pastors that are popular, whether it be teachers that have a strong impact on the community, and have them rally the community together to let their own elected official know that, hey, this issue isn't just important to Paperboy and the Yang Gang and UBI supporters. It's important to us here in your local community. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to turn your back on us as well? So for me, and if it's a situation where, hey, we get there and it's just like nobody in the country wants to do universal basic income, then okay, then I'm not going to force it through because nobody wants it. But the sentiment that I've got, the more and more that I've talked to people, is that it is something that they want, and it is something that they're curious to see how it can work for them. So they want their elected officials to not only take it seriously, but actually take action towards making it happen. So I would be inside, making sure that those people's voices are heard, and helping it so that that word reaches their elected officials.
All right, sounds good. So, I guess let's go off that. I know I keep saying to go off that, but I like the way this is flowing. So, to go off of that, because it is so hard to really get. I mean, obviously there are polls that can show you various things in regards to support for various policies or candidates, but how are you going to really measure the pulse of the constituents in your district and say, I'm doing the things that are representing you? What are some ways that you can do that?
So one of the things that we have been working on and is actually, staying involved in the community. So to be able to find out what's most important to our community and my constituents, I have to actually be on the ground with them, right? So the number one thing is being on the ground and talking to people, meeting them, actually hearing their stories, hearing how they feel. But that can only reach so many people, right? Actually, you only have so much time in the day to actually shake hands. Now, luckily, we have the luxury of technology, which allows us to reach so many more people through the internet. And so we've been working on an app or a application for a website that allows you to basically vote on issues that are important to you and that you want to see me as your representative work on. So, and that allows you to basically micro vote on issues. And, I wouldn't take that as 100%. I wouldn't take that as law, whatever the people vote on. I wouldn't say, okay, 99% of people want this, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna say automatically do that.
But it's definitely something to take into
But
consideration.
I would take it into heavy consideration.
Absolutely.
And it would allow me to be a lot more informed on what it is that my constituents want. Right now, our elected officials don't even tell us what bills they're working on until it's too late, let alone give us the opportunity to vote on the intricacies of those bills.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, it looked like we might go to war for a second there, for a hot second.
Exactly.
People did not vote on that.
Right. But the people had no choice. It's just like, oh, war up. We have no choice. We can make all the memes we want, but we have no choice. So having an opportunity to, when these things come up, you can quickly have a poll or something like that on your site where you can ask the people how they feel about it. So just so you can take a pulse of what's going on. So I'm super excited about this, and it's something that I want to present to other elected officials to use, again, not as a end-all be-all, but as something where you can just take a pulse and understand how people in your community feel about certain issues.
Awesome. That sounds like a very good solution, I have to say. So I just I don't have too many more specific questions here. I just kind of know if there's any sort of policy, any sort of issue really that doesn't get much attention that should get more attention. You think anything that's of importance to you that you don't think is talked about enough?
Well, one of the things that is important to me that, and I feel like it's important to a lot of Americans and it's talked about, but no real solutions are presented, is there's so many things, and that's why we have over 60 policies in our on our website. So there's a lot of issues that are important in the community and that we can have more focus on, that people can, focus more on and that aren't talked about. One of them that's super important and that, I feel like a lot isn't being said about is police reform. The police have a tremendous responsibility and a really tough job. And, they are special people in our community, and the people have to be able to trust them. And so we have to find a way, especially in communities that are, usually Black communities, Latino communities, a lot of places where there's been issues that just haven't actually inspired trust in the community, that have just gone on time after time. We have to find ways that bring the people together, the police and the people, ways to reform the police. So moving towards that, and we have a lot of innovative ideas and solutions for that. Prison reform, abolishing, prisons, finding ways to make it so we don't lock people in cages, but that we find ways to rehabilitate these people. Because right now, if someone robs a bank, instead of finding ways to rehabilitate them and make it so they're not doing armed robbery, we send them away for 10 years with the best armed robbers in their state. And they just learn better ways to become an armed robber, because they learned from people who got away with it for years and years and years, and they all hang out, and they literally hang out in the same block, and they learn from that. And then they go back on the street and they do more armed robberies because they want to learn out all the tricks they just, want to try out all the tricks they just learned for the last 10 years. What we should be doing is finding ways to rehabilitate these people. Another thing is, reparations for slavery, and for the drug war. There's so many casualties of the drug war, so many casualties of slavery, and the effects are still being felt heavily by both. People talk about the literacy rates in Black communities, and then they forget to mention, for the first several decades of this country's existence, reading was illegal for Black people. It was illegal to teach a Black person to read. It was illegal for a Black person to read and hold the book. If you were white and taught a Black person to read, they were going to hang you or cut your fingers off legally. You know what I mean? People don't talk about this. They're like, why are people having trouble in school? It's like, the countries. So then you expect that same country that had it illegal for Black people to read to all of a sudden, make the schools completely perfect for people to, educate themselves? It's like, no. So that's another thing that I feel like isn't talked about enough, and how to fix that. And then we have all these new technologies that aren't being regulated well enough, for the people that are most vulnerable and the people that are doing most for these platforms. So I think that streaming protections for artists, ways for artists to be able to have more options in reaching their fans, more options in protecting their digital rights and their art, as well as receiving revenue for that. So that's all things that we are looking into, and excited about.
All right, awesome. So I'll let this part out briefly, but I want to ask you the war on drugs question again, just because I want you to talk about your policy with legalizing weed and that stuff, and decriminalizing drugs. So I'm going to ask you that right now. All right, cut back in. So, question that I meant to ask you earlier, because I know that you're passionate about this question. I too, definitely care about this. Is I wanted to ask you about your policy when it comes to ending the war on drugs. I know that's something you're passionate about doing. I want you to explain what your policy is going to look like, and the effects it's going to have. If you could do so as concisely as possible.
Yeah, well, I think the war on drugs was terrible, because a lot of people saw the war on drugs in certain communities as just the war on black people, right? Because people are doing drugs all over the country, but it seems like the war was only happening in black communities. And I went to college. I went to a big state university, and everyone there was doing drugs. Everyone there was doing drugs, and there was no war going on. But right down the street, in the black community, not far from our university, the war was going on there constantly, because of, that's where they decided to concentrate their efforts. And so that's been unfortunate, and is disproportionately affected certain communities, specifically, again, the black community. I mean, it you just have to keep saying it, because it's just, that's how it was done. So there's that, but it's affected the whole country heavily, because of how it has ripped us apart, how it's wasted so much of our tax dollars, and only made the situation worse. Yeah, it's put a lot of people in jail, but it's wasted our tax dollars, and it's only made the situation worse. We only have more people now that are on drugs. We only have more people now that are dealing drugs than we did before the war started. So it goes back to the idea that prohibition rarely works. Just the idea of just banning something doesn't make people not want to do it. Yeah. In fact, a lot of times when you ban something, it makes people want to do it more. I mean, we've seen the prohibition of alcohol, and how that raised all these big mafia groups and all these gangs, and how much money people made in the speakeasies and all these things because of the prohibition of alcohol. And eventually the country said, wait, this is crazy. We're wasting all this money. All these cops are dying because they're killing, they're fighting these gang members and stuff who are trying to keep alcohol going. Let's just legalize alcohol and regulate it. And now we have alcohol. It's legalized, it's regulated, and there's a process to go through for getting it. When I was in high school, it was harder to get alcohol than to get weed or to get some type of drug, because alcohol, you had to know somebody that was 21 to get you alcohol. Whereas weed, anybody could have weed, because you just find a weed guy and it's like, yo, I'll give you weed. But whereas alcohol, it was regulated, and people weren't making hooch in their back room, so there wasn't that type of thing. So finding ways to legalize all drugs. I had a chance to speak with a state trooper, and he told me he had some of the most arrests in the state of Maryland. This is why I was a journalist working in D.C. And he mentioned he had the most arrests in the state of Maryland, and he did a bunch of drug arrests. And every time they arrested a drug dealer, 2 hours later a new one would pop up, and was aiming to sell more drugs than the last one. The prohibition of drugs just isn't working. People are still buying drugs, are still using drugs, and the people who are the drug users, they're not criminals. They're people who have a health issue, a health problem. If you're actually are dealing with the abuse of a drug, I'm not talking about recreational use. I'm talking about actual abuse of a drug. That is a health issue that you need a medical professional to help you with, not somebody just throwing you in jail for it. Right?
Of course, yeah.
So we need to find ways to, one, this is a health issue, so helping those people who have this issue through medical means. the people who are actually like drug abusers. Two, making all drugs legal, I'm sorry, not legal, decriminalized, so that you're actually able to access these. Because a lot of these drugs are accessible. They're only accessible if you get the pill from whatever pharmaceutical company.
So which drugs do you think would be made legal as opposed to decriminalized? Would marijuana be federally legal, for example?
Yeah, I wouldn't want people to go to jail for drugs
I agree.
at all. I think that just doesn't make sense for people to go to jail.
Certainly not for use of drugs.
For definitely not for use
Definitely
of
not for
drugs.
use.
Or possession. I don't think people should go to jail for
No, I'm with you.
possession of drugs either.
I think the only question for me is like the large scale drug dealers. But
Right. And then even with the large scale drug dealers, it's like, here's the thing, right? Now that marijuana has become legalized in many states, a lot of the people who are dealing marijuana, they're having trouble keeping up with the prices because a lot of the growers have started selling to legal vendors in dispensaries. Exactly. So now it makes tougher for the drug dealers, the street dealers, to actually get that marijuana at a good price to sell to where it's actually worth it. So just the legalization in a couple states has already hurt a lot of the drug dealers, the street dealers, because they can't sell it, which actually in some ways has become a problem, because that was some of these people's livelihoods. But in a lot of other ways, it's good because now it's tax dollars and tax revenue for the good of the people. Saying that to say that by legalizing all drugs, you actually make it harder for the people that are the street dealers because now there's more competition. It's just simple economics. So, and the other thought of it is we've already tried prohibition and it's just working terribly. There's still
it's not working at all.
right. There's still huge drug dealers. There's still
lots of
huge
people overdosing.
drug cartels. There's still tons of people overdosing. So, and we don't have good education about these substances because they're illegal. People aren't actually educated about these substances. We're not teaching people how to use them and how to use them correctly. What to do if your friend is having a issue. A lot of situations in New York, people are having issues where they're overdosing or somebody's having a reaction to a drug they took and they're afraid to call for medical help because they don't want to go to jail for using a drug. Now that they're in this catch-22 type of area. And some of these laws have been lifted, but people don't even know because they're still afraid and the education hasn't been there. So that's one of the things that I'd be fighting for by, just ending the war on drugs.